All right, so please pass the test. That's the title of my story today. Please pass the test. There is a place in the soul that cannot be filled by anything from the physical world. Even a life of complete selfless service will not fill this yearning. Only direct contact with your God self will fill this calling and satisfy its hunger. Consider it a unique mechanism or attribute of consciousness, somehow purposefully stitched into our being as a fail-safe of sorts, a seemingly unquenchable thirst that only the great source can satisfy. People try to fill that emptiness with all manner of distraction, overworking ourselves, hobbies, sports, travel, various entertainments, physical pleasures, and of course, drugs. So with that said, I share a little story that formed in my mind a couple nights ago. All people discover this place of unfulfilled desire within. Most refuse to acknowledge it or run from it scared and never address it again. An absurd reaction, really. But a few will walk its perimeter and become very aware of its presence. They even map out its location in every detail so as to return frequently. This void can be likened to a cenote in Spanish, a hole in the earth that is filled with water and linked to a great subsurface reservoir. But for most, this pool of water is out of reach and lay shallow at the bottom. Too far out of reach to yet satisfy one's thirst. Sometimes people even discover how to sit quietly at its edge and attempt to fathom its existence and how to drink from it. A gentle breeze can emanate from its depths. A few are shocked to discover what sounds like a voice on the gentle, soothing breeze. It flutters so delicately as to be almost indiscernible at first. And, if they listen attentively, long enough to follow the very quiet instruction from the very gentle voice within the gently soothing breeze, it will, ever so delicately, inspire. If this inspiration takes root within the soul, sitting at the edge of this hole with its shallow pool, it will learn how to change its behavior ever so slightly. And a funny thing will happen. The shallow pool at the bottom of this deep hole fills a little. Just a bit, but it definitely does. A marvelous thought then occurs. What if I kept altering my behavior? I wonder if this pool could be filled. Could I maybe then someday drink? And for a period of time the soul comes and goes, sitting quietly for a time and then departing, always checking on the pool's progress of slowly filling. Even a simple wooden chalice was brought once in anticipation of a drink from these clear blue waters. On one particular visit to the pool, the revelry of the soul was disturbed. It's happened before. quite frequently if we're honest. But so rarely are we honest enough. You see, this quiet clearing is surrounded by forest, dark forest with many interweaving paths. Occasionally, a vendor of trinkets strolls into view of the soul sitting quietly, and often the visitor is tempted away by the trinket salesman for a while. You see, these trinket sellers are so plentiful. Even while sitting quietly by the lovely pool, these vendors of trinkets have been circling, a ways into the shadows, but never out of reach. They seem to like the shadier places, and mostly avoid the intense scrutiny of the sun overhead. They usually call from a distance to get the soul's attention away from the slowly filling pool, and come take a quick peek at the wares being plied. Some are average salesmen, some are poorly skilled, but some have truly mastered their craft. With sweetness and compliment, they ply for your attention, and using a marvelous variety of words, they spin a tale of truly splendid fantasy and lovely visuals. They seem to be able to tease the depth of the soul, these master craftsmen of singular talent and temptation. In the moment a successful sale by a trinket salesman has been made, it's like blood in the water, and the sharks move in. One trinket salesman dances into sight, preening of its intellectual capabilities, describing all manner of thing and device. Another singularly skilled bard of sorts wanders into the clearing of the pool, strutting around in garments so magnificent even a peacock would feel jealous. Truly, and this vendor of trinkets' specialty is palace intrigue of the most exquisite variety. Secrets and conspiracy abound in her tales, as well as late evening devilry and mischievous frolicking. Oh, the tales of politic and desire are too good to pass, and before you know it, coins are out of the purse and dropped into the upturned hat being proffered. The curiosity of the soul has been tickled, and it only wants more and more intimate detail of others' mishaps and misfortunes. The soul listens and follows the salesman languidly and lets its attention slip. And before you know it, years have passed. Seemingly just like that, half a lifetime has come and gone before the soul even remembered to pause and look up at its surroundings. And the shock at discovering just how deep into the woods it has wandered, the shock is so strong enough to temporarily stun the trinket salesman, and the soul rises up to its feet, stretches and is dumbfounded to see salesmen encircle it at least 10 deep. And only dark forest overhead, and in sheer disgust, it pushes past the trinket sellers as the soul wildly tries to get its bearings. Where is the sun? How does it tell which direction is back to the clearing and pool? The yearning for light and quiet contemplation is so great. But how to find our way back? It can't believe it has allowed itself to stray so far and get so utterly lost. A panic sets in. The mind whirls with dark images. A sense of anguish at never finding its way out sets in. Feelings of loss and dread lash haphazardly throughout the traumatized flesh. Despair has arrived, and as it does, to all lost souls, wraps its tentacles ever tighter and slowly smothers all hope. A whimper passes the lips without even realizing it, and a seemingly natural thing happens as the soul curls up into fetal position and tears of fading astonishment stream. An agonizingly slow period of time elapses. Darkness seems to invade every nook of respite the soul tries to cower in. There seems to be no escape, no possibility of deliverance from the oppressive force of knowing that the heirs of judgment may not be salvageable this time. But just as this level of despair settles in and nestles uncomfortably close to the soul's heart, a glimmer off into the distance, a pause in self-flagellation occurs. What was that? I thought I saw something on the very edge of consciousness. A pause. And another scintillating flash darts at the very edge. But this time there is certainty it was seen. A desperate grasping arises, and from seemingly nowhere, a very faint memory of the delicate and soothingly gentle voice returns. And then without even realizing it, almost frantically, the soul grabs at this thread of hope, seizing it in unnatural desperation. And in an inhuman cry emerges from the throat, pleading, so tragically pleading for deliverance. And in this call to life, with unabated feeling of need for help, a last mortal call goes forth from the parched recesses of being. And even before the resonance of that call finishes forming, an answer is heard. Like a bolt of lightning, salvation strikes with such fierceness. The darkness doesn't even have time to scurry out of the way. It dies twitching, not even understanding what just occurred. The formless light reaches out and delicately cradles the withered form of another lost soul. It briefly considers just how frequently it is in this particular service, and lets the moment flitter away. It does not matter. The calls are always answered. Always. Its duty, its purpose. Leave no brethren behind. A motto emblazoned upon the shrine within. Eyes slowly crack open. The healing soul struggles to ascertain its whereabouts. It remembers being cradled, but not exactly how it was brought to safety. Something battles within. A memory of a near tragedy being averted, mingling with a kind of awe. A wound smart somewhere within, still fresh, but healing. Eyes close again. More rest. The next day the soul is surprised to see a visitor standing near and smiling, dressed in full white splendor. This unnamed person addresses the soul, and so it goes. The trauma of the mistake will slowly be forgotten, but the lesson needs to be sanctified in the heart. These mistakes can toughen us if used properly, but it's best not to stumble into them to begin with. Wisdom gained without a battle is just as wise. My dear soul, understand the trinkets are all a test. If you can simply sit by your pool and fill it patiently, you will eventually drink. Don't rush off to describe its shallows. Stay, be quiet, and learn of its depths. If you can make it through these tests, then you will be found worthy. All souls are inherently worthy. Their worth is forever intertwined with their purpose. This must be discovered and cultivated. Cultivation is not a skill of an instant. Allow time to fulfill its purpose in nurturing these attributes of love. The seeds must be watered. Tend them daily. If you do this without fail, you will see your harvest. And with these parting words, he stepped back away from the soul, smiled knowingly, and disappeared. Soul remained in its state of repose, considering all that has transpired, captivated, shaken, but most of all, committed. A fire burned within that had never been there before. Not a normal fire, this. A seemingly unquenchable fire to never be distracted again, and to see the pool filled patiently, however long it took, in order to drink. And so it was.